Have you ever thought about whether you are really in control of your life? Or whether your decisions, thoughts and actions are perhaps controlled by forces hidden deep in your subconscious? The universe has led you right here to explore this question, a question that has intrigued philosophers, scientists and spiritual thinkers for centuries. Is there such a thing as free will? Many of us live in the firm belief that we are the conscious agents of our lives. We are convinced that our decisions, be it what we eat, what career we pursue or how we react to certain situations, are the result of our own will. But if you take a closer look, the question arises, how conscious are these decisions really? Could it be that much of what you perceive as voluntary is actually driven by forces within you that you don't even realize? The idea of free will is deeply embedded in our society. It gives us the feeling of control, the illusion that we are in control of our own destiny. But what if this is only part of the truth? What if your thoughts and actions are controlled by your subconscious more than you would like to admit? An interesting example of this is neuroscience, which shows that many decisions that we think are conscious have already been made in the brain before we are aware of them. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "You still have to have chaos in you in order to give birth to a dancing star." Perhaps this chaos is the indication that there is more going on beneath the surface of our consciousness than we realize. The mind, brain and body have a complex relationship. Your brain not only receives information from the outside world, but also from within you, from your body, your emotions and your subconscious. It is like a constant flow of signals and messages that influence your consciousness. The body reacts to thoughts and emotions, the mind interprets these reactions and the brain uses them to form neuronal networks, which in turn determine your future actions. This creates a cycle that is often beyond your conscious control. Now that you are thinking about free will, the question begins to arise, are you really controlling your mind and body, or are you being directed by forces you don't yet understand? In the next chapter, we will dive deeper into this complex relationship and explore what unseen mechanisms are actually influencing your actions. In every moment of your life, your brain is a fascinating network of electrical impulses and chemical reactions that generate thoughts, feelings, and actions. You move, you think, you decide, but the question is, which processes really control these actions? What is going on behind the scenes in your mind as you go about your daily life? Modern neuroscience has made many exciting discoveries about how our brains actually work. It is often assumed that our conscious thoughts and decisions are the trigger for everything we do. However, numerous studies show that the brain has often already made a decision before we are even aware of it. This means that a large part of your actions are controlled by automated processes that lie deep in the subconscious. The science of the mind shows us that neural networks, the connections formed by experiences, thoughts and habits, play a crucial role in this process. Think of these networks as paths in the forest. The more often you think a certain thought or repeat an action, the stronger and wider this path becomes. It becomes a habit, an automated reaction. Your brain is programmed to save energy and therefore takes the easiest, most frequently used path. This means that many of your daily decisions are not really made freely, but are influenced by prior conditioning and neural pathways. A fascinating example of this is so-called predecisions. Studies using imaging techniques have shown that certain regions of the brain become active before you consciously make a decision. Your brain has already made a choice long before you have the feeling that you are actively thinking about it. This leads us to the question, how much control do you really have over your decisions? Are you really the one actively taking action, or is your mind simply reacting to patterns and stimuli that are deeply embedded in your brain? These findings shed new light on the idea that we act completely autonomously. Your reactions to situations, your decisions, even your thoughts, can often be controlled by unconscious mechanisms, neural networks that have been shaped by years of thought and action. These networks can have both positive and negative effects, depending on the thoughts and actions you have repeated. If you constantly tell yourself that you will fail in a certain situation, you are forming a neural network that can unconsciously lead you to that very failure in the future. But that doesn't mean you are powerless. These neural connections, which are deeply rooted in your brain, can be changed. Your brain is malleable and you have the ability to influence these networks. The first step is to realize how much of your actions are actually controlled by automated processes. The more you recognize these unconscious patterns, the more control you gain over your life. Now that you have an insight into the deeper processes of the mind and the mechanisms that control your actions, the next chapter will be about understanding the connection between your mind and body. We will explore how the body reacts to the thoughts and feelings your mind generates and how this interaction further influences your actions. You will feel your heartbeat accelerate, your muscles tense and a shiver run over your skin. A thought, a memory, or an unexpected event has instantly put your body on alert. But who is in control here? Is it your mind that triggers the physical reactions, or does the body sometimes take the lead and influence your thoughts and actions? The relationship between mind and body is profound and complex. Every thought you think, every emotional state you experience, leaves traces in your physical body. For example, if you think about a stressful situation, your body immediately reacts as if you were in that situation again. Your muscles tense up, your heart starts beating faster, and stress hormones such as cortisol are released. Your body cannot distinguish between the actual threat and the mere memory of it. It reacts to the images and feelings that your mind creates. Conversely, your body also influences your mind in subtle ways. Have you ever noticed how a queasy stomach or a rapid heartbeat can steer your thoughts in a negative direction? Your physical conditions have a direct impact on your mental and emotional state. When you are in pain or tired, your mind tends to interpret these sensations, often in the form of negative thoughts or emotional irritability. You feel tense, and your mind begins to get caught up in worry and anxiety. This interaction between mind and body is the foundation of the psychosomatic effect. Your mind has the power to cause physical symptoms that you feel without there being a physical cause. An example of this is the placebo effect. If your mind believes that you have taken a healing remedy, your body reacts positively, even if it is a harmless substance. But the reverse is just as common. If you believe in a disease or a negative outcome, your body may begin to develop symptoms that correspond to that belief. The mind controls the body, and the body controls the mind, an endless cycle of mutual influence. When the body is out of balance, such as through stress, anxiety, or chronic illness, it can subtly affect your thinking. A tense nervous system can put you in a state of constant reactivity, where you unconsciously respond to physical sensations caused by unconscious thoughts and feelings. Here it becomes clear that the question of who is in control, the mind or the body, is difficult to answer. They interact and influence each other in a way that often remains invisible but shapes your entire perception and behavior. For example, when you are in a state of anxiety, your body is on constant alert. This physical tension signals to your brain that danger is imminent, even if this danger is not real. In turn, your brain generates thoughts that reinforce the physical reaction: I'm in danger. Something bad is going to happen. This creates a cycle in which the mind and body constantly interact and reinforce each other. But this cycle can also be broken. By recognizing how your body responds to the subtle signals of your mind and, conversely, how your mind is influenced by the states of your body, you begin to understand that control lies not only in the mind, but in the conscious connection between the two. Breathing techniques, meditation, and mindful movement are just some of the ways in which you can influence the connection between mind and body and harmonize this interaction. In the next chapter, we will look at the philosophical perspective on free will. What do the great thinkers say about control? Is free will really an illusion, or is there a deeper truth that brings us closer to taking control of our lives? The question of free will has been one of the central themes of philosophy for centuries. It goes far beyond the everyday thought of whether we make our own decisions and delves deep into the nature of human existence. What does it mean to be free? Are you really the one who decides, or is your life predetermined, guided by forces far beyond your conscious control? Philosophers such as René Descartes, Immanuel Kant, and Arthur Schopenhauer have all explored the idea of free will. Descartes, famous for his quote, "Cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am," argued that the mind exists independently of the body and that people exercise control over their lives through their thoughts. However, the more science looks into the workings of the brain, the more this understanding is called into question. Can we really be sure that our thoughts belong to us, or are they simply the result of chemical and electrical processes that take place deep in our brain? Arthur Schopenhauer, on the other hand, spoke a disturbing truth: man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills. What does that mean? In his view, we are not the architects of our wishes and desires. Rather, they are shaped by our subconscious, our biology, and external influences. You may have the impression of acting freely, but in fact, according to Schopenhauer, you are merely the tool of forces beyond your conscious control. Immanuel Kant, on the other hand, spoke of a deep duality in human beings. On the one hand, there are our physical, determined actions, and on the other, our rational mind, which gives us a kind of moral freedom. For Kant, free will was closely linked to our ability to make moral decisions, even if the world around us is governed by natural laws. Modern neuroscience adds a new dimension to this philosophical debate. Research shows that many of our decisions are already made in our brain before we are aware of them. These preconscious decisions suggest that we may not have as much control as we think. The famous neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted experiments that showed that our brain becomes active fractions of a second before the conscious decision is made, as if consciousness were just a straggler in a process already underway. What does this mean for your free will? If your brain makes decisions before you can even think about them, who really controls your life? Perhaps free will is indeed an illusion, as Schopenhauer surmised. But there is another perspective that says that even if your decisions are based on unconscious processes, you still have the ability to consciously engage in the flow of those decisions. It's about how you shape your relationship with these unconscious forces. Rather than being completely free or completely determined, the key may lie in how you respond to what you become aware of. In every moment you have the opportunity to reflect, to question your thoughts and impulses and decide how to deal with them. Perhaps true freedom lies not in consciously making every decision from scratch, but in consciously dealing with the forces that guide your life. Now that we have explored the philosophical side of free will, the question arises, if so many of our actions are unconscious, what is really going on in the subconscious? In the next chapter, we will explore how deeply your subconscious mind intervenes in your daily decisions and the invisible strings it pulls in your life. Deep within your mind, hidden beneath your conscious thoughts, lies a powerful part of your psyche, the subconscious mind. It is the silent director behind the scenes of your daily decisions and actions. While you go through your life believing you are in control of every decision you make, the subconscious mind is working in secret and pulling the strings. But how strong is this influence really, and how aware are you of the power it has over you? The subconscious mind is like a giant memory that stores all your experiences, beliefs, fears, and unconscious patterns. It is the place where deeply rooted beliefs live, often beliefs that you have not even consciously chosen. These beliefs are often formed in childhood and are shaped by the people and situations that have surrounded you. These experiences form the basic structure of your thoughts and feelings unnoticed, and many of these patterns still exist today. Imagine waking up in the morning and, before you even consciously think, you are already acting according to set patterns. You reach for your coffee cup, check your smartphone and, without thinking about it, you start your day. Many of your actions are automatic because they are deeply anchored in your subconscious. It's the part of your mind that ensures you don't have to consciously think about every little thing, but it also means that you often go through life in autopilot mode. You react to external stimuli instead of consciously acting. The subconscious acts quickly, efficiently, and often without you realizing it. It stores emotional experiences and uses them as a basis for future decisions. In this way, old traumas or unresolved conflicts can live on in your subconscious and influence your reactions in the present. A deep-seated belief such as, "I'm not good enough," can unconsciously guide many of your actions and decisions without you consciously recognizing where this feeling comes from. You may think you are acting freely, but in fact your decisions often follow the invisible paths that your subconscious has paved for you. But there is hope, the subconscious is not unchangeable. You can become aware of these deep patterns and start to actively change them. There are many techniques you can use to gain direct access to your subconscious, be it through meditation, hypnosis, or targeted reflection. An important step is to carefully observe when you fall back on old, automated patterns. As soon as you realize that you are acting in autopilot mode, you can pause and consciously make a different decision. At this moment, you step out of the role of the puppet and take back control of your life. You begin to question and reprogram the deep-seated beliefs. This requires patience, because the subconscious is powerful and often works unnoticed, but it is possible to understand and utilize this invisible power to actively shape your life. Now that we have explored the power of the subconscious mind, the question is, can you really take back control? In the next chapter, we will look at techniques and approaches to help you act more consciously and take back control of your life. Having explored the depth and power of the subconscious mind, the central question remains, can you really take back control of your life? Is it possible to cut the invisible strings that your subconscious is pulling and act more consciously? The answer is yes, it is possible, but it requires awareness, mindfulness, and targeted techniques to actively change your behavior and thought patterns. One of the first steps to regaining control is to become aware of the automatic reactions you experience on a daily basis. Much of what you do is the result of repeated patterns that happen so often that you don't even notice them. But the moment you recognize these unconscious patterns is the moment you have the power to make a change. By observing your habits and recognizing when your autopilot mode is activated, you lay the foundation for conscious change. Meditation is one of the most effective techniques for accessing the deeper layers of your mind. Joe Dispenza describes meditation as a way to calm the mind and weaken the neural connections that have been strengthened by old habits. When you meditate, you enter a state of stillness in which you can begin to recognize and transform the automatisms of your mind. In meditation, you train your brain to stop blindly following old, automated paths and create space to cultivate new thoughts and behaviors. Imagine your mind is an ocean. In everyday life, the waves rage on the surface, your thoughts come and go like the tides. But in the depths of the ocean lies calm and stillness. Meditation helps you to immerse yourself in this depth, where you can grasp the origin of your unconscious reactions. It is a place where you can regain control over your inner processes. In addition to meditation, mindfulness in everyday life is another key to organizing your life more consciously. Mindfulness means being fully present in every moment, with your thoughts, your actions, and your feelings. When you are mindful, you recognize when old beliefs or reactions arise and can consciously take a different direction. It's as if you pause in the middle of the action process and ask yourself, do I really want to react this way? Or is there another, more conscious decision I can make? This pause between stimulus and response is the moment when you regain control. Another powerful approach is visualization. You can reprogram your brain by repeatedly imagining how you react differently in certain situations. For example, you could visualize yourself remaining calm and composed in a stressful situation instead of automatically falling into old reaction patterns. The more often you play through these new scenarios in your mind, the more your brain strengthens the neural connections associated with these new behaviors. This actively prepares your brain to react differently in the real world. Of course, this is a process that requires patience and consistency. The automated patterns that guide your subconscious have been built up over years, and it takes time to change them. But with every conscious decision you make, you weaken the old connections and strengthen the new ones. You begin to take back control of your life. An inspiring example of this practice is Viktor Frankl, the famous neurologist and Holocaust survivor, who said, "Between stimulus and response lies a space. In this space lies our power to choose our reaction. In our reaction lies our growth and our freedom." Frankl's words remind us that true freedom lies in finding that space between stimulus and response, and this is also where control lies. Now that you understand how you can consciously control your life, let's go one step further in the next chapter and look at the spiritual perspective. Because perhaps it's not just about taking control, but also about accepting that life has a flow of its own and control is often an illusion. Having explored how you can take back control of your life, a deeper, perhaps even perplexing question arises: is controlling everything even the goal? Or does true freedom perhaps lie in letting go and accepting the natural flow of life? From a spiritual perspective, the answer to this question could fundamentally change the way you look at life. Many spiritual teachings, from Buddhism to Taoist philosophy, emphasize that the pursuit of control is often the cause of our suffering. It is human nature to seek security, certainty, and predictability. But life is inherently unpredictable, fluid, and often chaotic. Attempts to control every facet of your life often lead to frustration and anxiety. The deeper teachings of spirituality encourage us to develop trust and let go, and that also means giving up the illusion that we can control everything in our lives. The Taoist philosopher Laozi once said, "Those who surrender to the flow of life will never fight against the current." This view is not about denying free will or the ability to make decisions. Instead, it points out that life in its essence is a dance between what you can control and what you cannot. You can learn to surf the waves of life instead of trying to tame the ocean itself. Joe Dispenza and other modern spiritual teachers bring a similar perspective. While the mind has immense power to shape reality, true wisdom lies in knowing when it's time to let go. You have the ability to consciously direct your life by transforming your thinking and emotions. But at the same time, there are forces in the universe that are greater than your individual quest for control. These forces work in harmony with your life when you stop fighting them and surrender to the flow of life. This idea is not synonymous with passivity or giving up your will. Rather, it means recognizing that there is a higher intelligence, whether you call it the universe, destiny, or divine guidance, that is guiding your life in ways that you don't always immediately understand. When you let go, you open yourself up to the possibilities that exist beyond your conscious imagination. In this surrender lies a deeper form of control. You learn to flow with life instead of fighting it. This means that you stop living in constant fear of the unknown and instead develop trust that everything that happens to you is part of a greater plan. Control thus becomes a dance between active creation and courageous letting go. You control where you want to go, but you also recognize when it is time to surrender to the natural currents of life. An example of this is the practice of acceptance. When you accept a challenge in your life instead of fighting it, a deep sense of peace often arises. Acceptance does not mean that you should do nothing, but that you accept the situation as it is and act from that point. It is a balance between action and letting go. Many people experience that the very moment they let go, new doors and opportunities open up that they could not realize before. In spiritual practice, meditation is a powerful tool to experience this balance between control and surrender. In the stillness of meditation, you learn to let go of your thoughts and simply be. You enter a space where you feel the flow of life without the need to constantly intervene. It is in this stillness that you can perceive the deep connection between mind, body, and the universe. You realize that you are part of a greater whole and that this whole works in harmony with you, if you allow it to. Having illuminated this spiritual perspective, in the next and final chapter we can reflect on what it really means to have control over your life. Perhaps it's not about controlling every detail, but about being in harmony with the flow of life and consciously making the choices that lead to your highest good. Having delved deep into the realms of the mind, body and subconscious on this journey, the central question arises again: are you really in control of your life, or are you being guided by unseen forces? The answer is not simply black or white, it lies in the depth of the interplay between control, consciousness, and surrender. We have seen how your brain is shaped by repetitive thoughts and behavior patterns. Neuroplasticity shows us that what you think and do creates neural pathways that influence your future behavior. These automatisms can sometimes make you feel like a puppet controlled by unconscious processes. But this does not mean that you are completely powerless. On the contrary, it shows you the enormous power you have when you become aware of these patterns. There is a space between stimulus and response, a moment in which you have the power to consciously change the direction of your life. You can learn to take control of the strings your subconscious has pulled by cultivating new, positive habits and thoughts. But this control is not a rigid concept. It is a dynamic process, a dance between conscious control and acceptance of the uncontrollable. The findings of neuroscience and philosophy have shown us that many of your decisions are made before you are even aware of them. This may seem frightening at first, but it also opens up the possibility of actively engaging with your subconscious. Through mindfulness, meditation and visualization, you can recognize the invisible threads that control your life and begin to redirect them. Control here means that you take responsibility for your inner state, and therefore also for what manifests in your outer life. But the spiritual perspective invites you to see the concept of control in a larger context. It shows you that control is not about having a firm grip on every aspect of life, but about the ability to let go and trust. Sometimes the pursuit of absolute control is an illusion that keeps you from experiencing the natural flow of life. True freedom comes when you realize that you don't have to direct everything, because life often finds a way that is far greater than you can imagine. This interplay of active design and conscious surrender leads to a new understanding of control. You are no longer a puppet blindly following the strings of the subconscious, but you are also not trying to control the entire flow of life. Instead, you learn to act consciously, but also to flow with the tides of life, knowing that there is a deeper wisdom that supports you. The realization that you can both steer and be steered brings a new kind of inner freedom. You realize that your mind, body and subconscious are in constant exchange, and that through awareness and surrender you can live in harmony with this flow. At the end of this journey, the question remains: are you really steering, or are you being steered? The answer may not lie in a clear yes or no, but in a deep understanding that life is a complex web of inner guidance and outer trust. You can change the direction of your mind, you can consciously shape your reality, and yet there are moments when the best thing you can do is surrender to the great flow of life. The universe has led you on this journey to remind you of this balance. It's not about taking control completely or giving it up, but about mastering the art of bringing both into harmony.